see a lot of people on social media saying, oh, he took money from Epstein. He did not take money from Epstein. That would have been discovered if he did. Well, let me just put it like this. So far, it appears that he has not taken money from Epstein. It would have shown up on some of the reporting, and people aren't digging into that. So far, it looks like he could be telling the truth when he says, I didn't take any money. If he's telling us he never met him, okay, I'm willing to take Hakeem Jeffries' word for that. Because that's certainly something that could be, checked into to a degree. But okay. Then you had Jamie Raskin, who was on the House floor, yes, we'll break down, defending Stacey Plaskett. But we'll get to that. And we'll leave this Epstein stuff. Got a few more things to say about it, but it's not going to dominate the show today because there's some other things going on. Charlotte. We're going to talk Charlotte today. What is happening, folks, in Charlotte is monumental. And it should be a history lesson for all of us. And there are other things, too. Of course, President in the news and so many other things. So, Snurley.
Hey, Jibu, how do you like this?
I wonder if we're going to have...
How do you like this thing I painted last night?
Yes, we do.
I painted this last night. This was the late show. Late last night.
In 2016, Kanye West had to abruptly end a concert. Shortly after that, he was committed to UCLA with hallucinations and paranoia. The episode was first described as Kanye was suffering from temporary psychosis caused by dehydration and sleep deprivation. But 21 concerts were canceled. Paranoid, depressed. Now, our dear Carlos here remembers that.
Yes, it was a crazy day.
Why was it such a crazy day?
Because he also made a Yeezy release of his shoes that day that I was trying to get, and it was I was here in the city while I was studying in Iowa. I was here for Thanksgiving break, and I couldn't get my hands on them, and I was very upset.
So Carlos was very upset on that day. He remembers it because he couldn't get his Yeezy sneakers because Kanye had gone, how shall we say? I won't say. Thank you, Carlos, for the remembrance. James Golden's 30, do not go away. A lot more coming back.
A masterpiece.
This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Cudahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions and bring you a special Black Friday offer.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install a Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's Leaf
Are you there, Pinky?
And now, as a special Black Friday offer, you can get a free gutter inspection plus up to 35% off. This is our best offer of the season. Unlock it now at Leaf Filter.
Jibu, are you there, Jibu?
For warranty details.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You sort through tons of resumes and you get too many so-so applicants.
You're just waiting for someone to match your role perfectly.
Well, now, there's a place where you can meet them fast. ZipRecruiter.
Start your search for strong candidates. The right fit awaits. Be sure to do it sooner.
ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free, and you're on your way to meeting your match. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it now. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
All right.
This is the 77 WABC update on real estate, sponsored by.
I like using these jumbo crayons because they paint.
What's the hottest new housing
You can
market
paint
going
more
on
area with them,
2026? Queens, while Brooklyn's
and you could do it faster. You could color.
the average
You can color faster with them, but the bad thing about it is
$29.50 per month.
they're not very accurate. Like if you go too close to the lines, you can actually go over the lines.
Ridgewood, with new restaurants and bars. Sunnyside, where it's quiet. Astoria, for great Greek food. Or Forest Hills, where it's family friendly. New York City does have everything, but if you're looking to save money, Queens is your option. Everybody gets New York. I'm Suzanne Miller.
Keep listening for more on real estate with Suzanne Miller on 77 WABC. Business moves fast, and your financial needs require a solid foundation. Award-winning and Moody's investment grade rated. Ocean First Bank excels with commercial financing products and a team of experienced bankers to grow and sustain your business goals. Ocean First Bank, specializing in credit lines, term loans, equipment financing, commercial mortgages, and construction loans for your business. Commercial banking that works for you. OceanFirst.com/business. OceanFirst.com/business. Equal opportunity lender, member FDIC. At Jake's 58 Casino Hotel this November, it's your chance to gobble up the green and feast on your share of $55,000 cash. Earn entries all month long and join us on Friday, November 28th from 4 to 6 p.m. 2 winners will be drawn every hour to win up to $10,000 cash. Then at 7 p.m., 1 lucky winner will take home a grand prize of $20,000 cash at Jake's 58 Casino Hotel. If gambling is a problem for you or someone you care about, please call the 24-hour toll-free helpline at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, U.S. Tax Shield can help you take back control. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Our team of tax attorneys can stop collections and get you protected. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the BBB, so call 800-466-9625. U.S. Tax Shield, 800-466-9625.
I love that. I used to like them when I was a kid. You used to like the jumbo crayons when you were a kid?
But my dad had life insurance.
They had the jumbo crayons when you were a kid?
My wife, 4 kids.
They didn't have these crayons when I was a kid.
Toast.com. Because you can do it in 10 minutes. There's no medical exam and no blood test. Just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos. ETHO.
No, that's not the water, actually. This isn't the water. This is this is grass and rocks and grass below the water. The water is up here where it's white.
This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Now, as I mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, before the break, Jamie Raskin has had some issues here of his own. He is being looked at for perhaps being involved in past a Bureau of Prisons regulations and maybe even who knows what else to get client privileged emails from Ghislaine Maxwell, and
This is the water.
Ghislaine, she's called, I call it Ghislaine,
Up here.
which she used during hearings. And that's
See, this is a house. This is a house.
He's one of the ones
And this is a house.
some lame explanation.
So a house can't sit on water. This is house. This is house. And this is land. You see the land? This is land and this is land. So the water is only this part. Because this is land also. This is land that has rocks and
That last night on Fox.
there's rocks and bushes and stuff.
So let's listen into that, and let's listen to Comer on Raskin on Plaskin.
They've arraigned a Democratic member for taking.
Yeah, I never had these crayons when I was a kid because these jumbo crayons never existed. These never existed when I was a kid.
Well, I've said many times, Jamie Raskin's full of crap. He's the definition of congressional hypocrisy. Can you imagine if that were Donald Trump or me or some Republican that Raskin doesn't like that was texting with Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender who the Democrats have now become obsessed over because they hope and pray that he has something to do with Donald Trump. If we were texting with him during a committee hearing, I mean, it's preposterous. Remember, Jamie Raskin appointed Stacey Plaskett to be on the impeachment, to be an impeachment manager of Donald Trump. And here we find out she was communicating with Jeffrey Epstein in a plot to take down Donald Trump. So for Jamie Raskin to try to defend that on the House floor in front of America is par for the course for Jamie Raskin, but it's the definition of hypocrisy.
Okay, there's a lot of hypocrisy going around on DC. Now, also, CNN last night had a little exchange. One of their contributors, I guess, and I don't know whether she's an official contributor, but she was on, I think, the Abby show with them, is a woman by the name of Teslin Figaro. I've never heard of Teslin before, but anyway, this little brief excerpt from Teslin.
I want to put something on the table that I thought would President O'Connor said today, and I found very disturbing when he was talking about.
How many jumbo crayons did you have? The 8-pack or the 16-pack?
Thomas Jefferson.
Which one of the jumbos you had? The 8-pack or the 16-pack? Because those are the only packs that are available in America.
We're powerful men. We're taking advantage of young girls and then trying to make it be a love story. So no, I don't think innocent people should have their name disparaged. What I'm trying to tell you is the files are being released. So if you're in the file and you didn't do anything wrong, then yeah, well, you're up. Because it's coming out and people need to just know what's going on. Try to get away from it.
If you are in the file, and now, look, folks, as much as I would like to take issue with her calling out Thomas Jefferson on familiar, y'all are related, DNA, related to Thomas Jefferson. Now, his relationship with Sally Hemings is a matter of record now. But I've never heard the word rape in connection. Anyway, we'll be back. Don't go away.
What's your answer? Did you hear my question, Jibu? Jibu, Jibu.
Raised, fed in America, then you want Freedom Farms. No imports, no nonsense. From their family farm in upstate New York to your family table. Fill your freezer with a whole cow or a half cow, or grab a
I asked you which set of the jumbo crayons did you have? Because they only come in 8-pack and a 16-pack.
For $25 off your first order. Freedom Farms, real meat from real farmers. Did you know you can help regrow cartilage in your joints, ligaments, connective tissue, and joints weaken with age? All because our natural production of a particular protein declines, leaving you vulnerable to injury.
Oh, you had the 8-pack of
This overlooked nutrient can help rebuild connective tissue, strengthen joints, and support
jumbo crayons. All right.
protein was once considered to be an irreversible step in the progression of joint pain. Until now, just go to getnativepath.com/bow and get up to 45% off today. GETNATIVEPATH.com/bow. WABC Traffic and Transit.
Sponsored by D'Agostino and Associates, the injury firm. Call 1-800-FIGHT-BACK. That's 1-800-2...
Well, in the 16-pack.
On Long Island, eastbound Southern State, between exits 19 and 20, a crash blocks 2 lanes. And west on the Cross Bronx at the Deegan, there's
In a 16-pack, you get
eastbound 78 local lanes, the exit ramp to northbound Route 1 and 9, partially blocked by a car fire.
you get white,
And there's delays on the
turquoise,
earlier signal trouble.
red, purple,
Traffic and transit,
Seriously injured?
blue, purple, red, purple,
1-800.
orange, red,
That's 1-800-248-32.
yellow, green, pink. You get pink, and you get a
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru
what's this one called?
Chris Cunahan is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
This one is called
Special Black Friday offer. Hey,
everybody.
Yellow orange. You get a yellow orange.
Ron, where are you calling from?
So those are the different colors that you get
I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters
over the
installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. Elite Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters.
over the regular eight color ones.
Need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal. And now, as a special Black Friday offer, you can get a free gutter inspection plus up to 35% off. This is our best offer of the season. Unlock it now at leaffilter.com/deal. See representative for warranty details. All across America, this is the Red Apple Audio Network's Market Report, sponsored by Abacus Global Management.
Before the closing bell, stock averages were somewhat higher, ending tech and AI powerhouse NVIDIA's earnings for a sign of where AI-related stocks will go from here. Wall Street's been worried about those stocks' high prices for a while now.
Yeah, those are the 8 colors that you get on top of these 8. On top of the brown, black, blue, green, purple, red, orange, and yellow. So you get those extra 8 colors.
Lowe's Home Centers says sales rose, but they're not certain whether that will continue. Walmart is in talks to buy a company founded by 2 Israeli scientists that stops scams and counterfeits on online marketplaces. Klarna, buy now, pay later, says their business is down. Energizer Batteries says tariff costs have hurt their profits. And Lazy Boy, sales came in much higher than...
Oh, you hear that? Klarna says their business is down.
Up 10%.
Klarna says their business is down. The buy now, pay later, the business is down. It seems that people don't have the money to buy now and pay later either. They just don't have the money.
At Abacus Global Management, we're reshaping financial planning around the most personal data point, your lifespan. But it's more than just insight, it's control. As a technology-driven asset manager, we're empowering investors with an integrated system to take command of your time, your future, your financial destiny. This is a new era of investing. Take control at abacusgm.com.
Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Oh yeah, let's tune into
Recently, that's the consensus here in Huntington, where people say they go to the local theaters or simply stream plays from home instead of traveling into the city for Broadway.
The performances at Engelman are fabulous. Why travel into New York when you can get great theater here?
This woman just moved to Long Island.
So tempting not to leave anywhere. I feel like Huntington is such a great town in terms of, it has everything at your doorstep. And I love the city. It's just, if you don't need to leave, why?
Another big reason for not traveling into the city, people working from home, and it's easier just staying local. Sophia hands up.
In the setting that you're going into this weekend.
As always, it's going to be interesting. I want to see how much interest he brings and how he's going to address some of those sort of stickier questions.
Hey, Edmundo, come on in.
here we go. Now we're going into the business news. Let's listen to the business news.
Question is one that I've received, and it commits to this annual cadence to the new generation of GPU. And I think that there are a lot of people out there who would really appreciate Jensen explaining the useful life cycle of any generation of GPU and how they...
You see what it looks like now? This is land. This is land. This is not water. This is land.
Well, I think there is this dynamic taking place.
This is grass.
Trying very hard to prop up the Neo clouds as alternatives.
It's grass.
I'd rather have 100 small customers than 3 large ones. The problem is that will eventually conflict with that annual cadence, right? This whole issue about depreciation of how long a server lasts, I think
people look a lot at sort of the physical life of the server, but the more important question is the economic life of the server. And if you have a new GPU coming out every year, the old ones become less valuable. And so that leads to some pretty punishing price curves for the neoclouds. And so Jensen and NVIDIA want to constantly be coming out with new products to stay competitive and push their own sales up. But that's making money. And so that's sort of this big long-term picture outlook.
We got to peel.
Would keep me up at night if I didn't have a sell rating on it.
Oh boy, I colored with the wrong end of the crayon.
I know you talked to CoreWeave CEO quite a bit in recent months.
Should have colored with this side.
That CoreWeave's higher in sympathy after these NVIDIA results, and in addition to another neocloud company that's out there. Right now, the demand is there for cloud companies. I mean, even CoreWeave said just very recently it's been able to diversify away from its biggest customers.
Yeah, in the conversations that we've had with Michael and Trade said that there is demand for the older generation technology. One sort of data point or statistic that those who are more calm about the depreciation issue would point to is utilization. So they would say right now the Hopper generation of accelerators or GPUs is running at 100% utilization in terms of workloads. It can't be used any more than it already is. As a very bullish signal.
You know what's my favorite thing about using crayons? Is that crayons
are not idle. Compare and contrast with some of the secondary.
Crayons are relatively clean. They just mess up your fingers and your skin just a little bit, which can be easily washed away. But it doesn't. It could be easily washed away, and it doesn't.
So it's kind of interesting because
it doesn't quite mess up anything else too much.
Basic financial journalism, it will come up.
And hold on for a second. Jay, last question. Final thoughts on this. I mean, I'm looking at the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index up almost 2% in the aftermarket. A name like Broadcom is also up about 2%. And again, NVIDIA still up about 3.2% here after its earnings. Final thoughts, Jay, from you when it comes to NVIDIA.
So I want to respond. I want to close in responding to Ed's comment about utilization. I've certainly heard data points that utilization are high in the neoclouds, at least some of them, anecdotally. But if utilization is so high, why do AMD and NVIDIA make it a practice to backstop capacity at the neoclouds as part of these deals? If you look across the sales process for GPUs right now, you'll see a lot of these big neoclouds have contractual terms which allow them, which basically put AMD and NVIDIA in the position of backstopping or buying up excess capacity. And it seems like a little bit of disconnect to me that you need those backstops if utilization were so high. So I think there is definitely signs of froth in the neocloud sector. Not necessarily CoreWeave or Nebius. I don't want to pick on them, but there are growing signs of friction in that corner of the AI trade that makes me cautious about the broader spectrum of things.
And to be fair, I just want to bring you in on that if you have any thoughts for Jay.
Only that those that share some skepticism and want to ask difficult questions of Jensen would also point out that CoreWeave is one of NVIDIA's biggest equity positions or equity investments. It's also they are in a position where CoreWeave's under pressure from its customers to have access to the latest technology. There is a disconnect there at some point. They can't be running both the old GPUs. But again, I think asking the basic question of depreciation and how Jensen Huang sees it, that's something that we'll put to him for sure.
Yeah, it definitely has to be addressed. Jay Goldberg, thank you as always. You give us so much time. We so appreciate it. Senior Analyst, Semiconductors and Electronics over at Seaport Research Partners, as we've said, currently has a sell rating on NVIDIA, the only such rating for the stock listed in the terminal, sticking to his conviction. Shares of NVIDIA, by the way, still up about 3.6%. But Ed's still with us.
Ed's still with us. And once again, Jay, not just the only sell rating, but that price target of 140 and shares, close today, what, at, 160 something?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
180?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think it was
186.
186, thank you. Go ahead.
No, Ed, as you think about, your conversation, Jensen, you've had many conversations with him at, different venues, different events. I don't know. What is really, you think, the most important thing to hear from him? We talked about depreciation and some other things, but I'm just curious what's top of mind for you here and what you really want to hear from him.
Electricity. It's fair to say I've had more terminal client IVs, more messages on social media, more people in the newsroom come up to me and say, like, we should probably talk about electricity and energy, because, we don't really have a good line of sight to whether, if they can build all these data centers, and Jensen Huang does have a good line of sight on that, when the data center is built, finished, ready to turn the lights on, is the electricity there? And the answer is no. There's loads of deals.
So you ate your food? Are you full?
Today about the US or the DOE taking government ownership of nuclear reactors, but these are all deals on paper. They don't exist in the real world. I think that's really critical. The other thing is the press release says they're sold out of GPUs. I just asked him, what do you mean by sold out? Because they're ramping output. They're supply constrained. The demand is great at any given moment in their ability to supply. But to say that something is sold out is a bit confusing, to be honest. And so we'll, ask for some clarity on that.
Hey, Ed, before we let you go, last question. Ian King writing an inventory took a jump in the quarter. Normally at chip makers, and just to remind everybody, Ian King has covered chip makers for more than 20 years. It's a worrying sign, meaning the amount of unused product is going up. The company said it's to, quote, ordering to secure long lead time components, meet the demand for Blackwell, and support future architecture roadmaps. It's a little different than what it's traditionally done.
I thought they can't meet demand.
Yeah, inventory is typically bad depending on the type of chip.
Oh, yeah.
That no one's
Look at the little baby shark, huh? Look at the little baby shark.
so longer than 20 years. But the video's argument has always been, we keep telling our customers, our suppliers, and our partners what we're doing for the next 5 years. That includes the memory chip makers and telematics, data center server design builders.
You see, that's the water. That's the water, and that's the land, I'm telling you. That's the land.
Accelerated computer systems at scale, the GPU, it can't just be the GPU that's ready to go.
You see the land, pirate. You see the land.
With the stock up, whatever it is now, and after hours 4%, so I don't think anyone's worried about that inventory.
All right, good stuff. Hey, listen, kiddo, we will be watching, all of us will be watching, co-host of BTech, Ed Ludlow, as you know, catch him at 11 a.m. Wall Street time every Monday through Friday, but he will be speaking exclusively this evening with NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. That's at 6:30 p.m. Wall Street time, and you can catch that on both Bloomberg Television and Bloomberg Radio, so be sure to check that one out. It is an exclusive, sir. He's got the conversation.
Hey, let's get on over to Charlie Pellet for a little update on everything happening after hours, because it's more than just
Now we're gonna do this. We're gonna do the houses there in the background. We're gonna do these houses in the background later. I don't feel like doing those now. We're going to the next image.
Attention growing businesses, Oracle's offering to cut your current cloud bill in half if you move to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for new U.S. customers with minimum financial commitments. See if your company qualifies at oracle.com/Bloomberg.
Trace.
Crime relief on Wall Street. NVIDIA is important for the
Each path to see who wins the race. Colored.
about a bubble in AI-related names. Now, after the bell, NVIDIA did deliver a strong revenue forecast for the current period, helping counter concern that an explosion in AI spending is heading for a crash. After hours right now, we got NVIDIA up 5.2%. The Dow, the S&P,
Look at this one. This one's a happy baby shark.
500 index ahead of it.
Oh, yeah. Happy. Happy.
Had a gain of 47, up by about 0.1%. Shopping session there with NASDAQ up 131, up by 0.6%. The Mag 7 index climbed 0.9%. 10-year 4.13%. Spot gold up $15 the ounce to $4,082, up by about 0.4%. A retreat for crude, $59.60 a barrel, down 1.9%. And Bitcoin now at $90,000. 480 on Bitcoin, down by 2.1%. After the bell, Palo Alto Networks announced it is acquiring Chronosphere for $3.3 billion to boost its AI-enabled cybersecurity offerings. So again, recapping here, after ours, we do have the Invesco, the QQQs. They are trading higher, up now by 0.7%, and NVIDIA shares after earnings after ours up now by 4%. We got you covered on NVIDIA. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. Continuing to watch the tech sector. Just want to mention Regeneron, because we saw that one pop in the aftermarket, up about 4%. It was halted for trading after the close, or into the close, I should say. Right now, a gain of about 4.3% here. This, of course, biomaker or biotech company, and this is after it looks like it got FDA approval for an eye treatment, Eylea, and so investors kind of liking that news.
Okay.
I know we focus on
I thought we were just talking about NVIDIA.
I know we do, but there are other news events in the aftermarket and stocks on the move. And speaking of stocks on the move, NVIDIA is up almost 4%. Broadcom is up about 2%. And then I think I had AMD.
You see this happy shock? This is a happy shock.
Philadelphia Semiconductor Index is up about 1.8% in the aftermarket.
It's got bloody red teeth. Ah, yeah.
$65 billion in the fiscal fourth quarter. I want to bring in Bloomberg News big tech team leader Sarah Fryer. She's also the author of No Filter, the inside story of Instagram. She joins us from Bloomberg's San Francisco bureau. So going into this, Sarah, there was this narrative emerging that there was concern that the AI bubble, if we're calling it that, maybe losing a little bit of air, if we're going to stay with that metaphor. Concern about the hyperscalers, CapEx, we saw what happened with platforms a few weeks ago. Is that concern gone after reports such as this? Is everything all fine and dandy now?
I don't think the concern is gone, because I do think there are still some trends that are as noted in my colleague Ian King's story, somewhat worrisome, right? The fact that NVIDIA is investing in a lot of the entities that are buying its chips, right? So is there a way that they are indirectly spending demand for their product? There is the concern about China sales. We still don't have any forecast of sales to China, despite some of the loosening of the most restrictive policies from the Trump administration. And then there's also the question of everyone trying to come up with NVIDIA alternatives for their chips, and some of the rivals starting to gain a little bit of traction. We saw a little bit from AMD. And then furthermore, just the idea that, so much of the
What color you think I should paint the
data centers?
Brown, black, blue, green, purple, red, orange, or yellow? I already did the first one orange. We're going to do purple. We're going to do this one purple.
With NVIDIA chips. So I think that, although this is a company on a tear, we are in the NVIDIA economy.
We're going to do this one purple, Jibu.
It has altered the financial future of a lot of the companies.
Oh, wait a minute. How come you became number 2 after that? After that piggy character.
Are all the fears in our past, and we're not thinking about that anymore? Certainly not. We're going to keep.
You know what? Go delete that. Delete the piggy. Delete the piggy. That piggy stupid comment, because that stupid comment kicked you off of number 1. I just noticed that now.
San Francisco, the tech community front and center, so you hear things in and around, not just in the
Go back into the chat and kick off that piggy bastard.
But I'm looking at, NVIDIA is certainly up in the aftermarket. I'm looking at NASDAQ 100 E-mini futures. They're up about 1.5%. S&P
You heard?
100 futures are up about 0.9%.
It's big.
It's big. I look at the SOX.
That's a big effect.
The SOX is up almost 2%. There's a bunch of other names in the space. So I think there was just so much fear that what if they miss those numbers, and they,
You hear me?
Data center revenue number for the third quarter and fourth quarter revenue was up in the outlook, right? So I think, does it feel like, I don't know, this community, just a little bit of a sigh of relief that, okay, they hit these numbers. They actually did better than what the street was expecting, and maybe that puts some of the concerns, I don't know, under wraps for a little bit.
I think here, you're asking about the perspective here in the Valley. Here in the Valley, AI doesn't sound like anything that there's a sense that we're just at the beginning of this grand movement that will change the world.
You're not hearing me. You're not there, Jibu.
It's not even the LLMs that will be the model that secures the future with AI. And so we're just now starting to see the applications of AI, the payback really for all of this investment. We haven't quite solved that. Where's all this revenue, the actual sales to companies that are going to pay for all of the chips that NVIDIA makes? We haven't really solved that
Jibu!
To the tune of the billions that have been spent. But I think that here, you're also here in the Valley, it is very much, all systems go on AI. There is not as much of a concern about whether this is a bubble. People are seeing these big numbers, and they're thinking, the world is about to change even further.
How so?
People are thinking about how their jobs are going to change. They're using AI very, very much in their jobs and in their personal lives, like relying on AI to help them make decisions for themselves and their families. And I think people are eager to create products that are going to take advantage of this as a new resource. Whether that is going to dramatically lead to efficiency, more profits for the companies, given all the investment so far, it's sort of yet to be seen.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting, right? I mean, here we are, almost 3 years in to this AI story, and most people say it's just early innings on all of this, but it's hard for, right? All of us who covered, booms and busts and crises, and I'm not saying that this is any of that, but it's hard not to be a little bit skeptical when you see, Sarah, the spend over and over. And again, the conversations around the circular financing, and, it's hard, the logical side of your brain says, well, wait a minute, does it ultimately make sense?
Two things can be true, right? It's not necessarily either or. There can be a dramatic revolution in technology that will change our lives. And there can be irresponsible spending at the same time, right? We saw in the dot-com boom, for instance, that there were a lot of companies that had very dire circumstances at the end when that bubble burst and they had to shut down. But hey, we still use the internet. The internet is still a thing. So I think
What?
you're right.
What?
So I think we might
.com, not so much.
Sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
We're not necessarily talking about a bubble burst, and that means that AI wasn't a thing, and we shouldn't have thought that it was going to be so big. It could be that there is still potential for a large financial correction down the road, but AI remains a force that changes how we do business and how we live our lives. So I think to put it in that stark of a either or is missing the larger trend.
This is why we come to you, because it's really
the big picture.
Yeah, and it's very balanced and thoughtful. Sarah, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Bloomberg News Big Tech Team Leader Sarah Friar. She's also the author of No Filter, the inside story of Instagram, and she is, of course, there from our Bloomberg San Francisco bureau.
Also in our San Francisco bureau is Ed Ludlow. Tonight he'll be speaking exclusively with NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. That's at 6:30 p.m. Wall Street time. You can catch that interview live on Bloomberg Television and Bloomberg Radio.
Must see
and listen. Depending on how you're consuming it.
Definitely. All right, I'm Carol Massar, along with Tim Stenvick. Let's get to some stocks on the move on this Wednesday. Bloomberg News equities reporter Carmen Reinecke is in the house, and you got to talk about NVIDIA.
Yeah, first and foremost, right? NVIDIA shares are up about 3.9, almost 4% right now. We're seeing a really quick reaction to these earnings, and obviously, these were the numbers that the entire street was waiting for. And at least in the short term, this is a really positive reaction. It seems like a vote of confidence, and could really reinvigorate some of the AI trade that we've seen, the group become so much more skeptical about in the last few weeks.
We're speaking about this after the market is closed, when NVIDIA shares are moving higher in the after hours. Carol mentioning earlier on our program today that the effect that it's having on the greater trade too, seeing the stocks higher, seeing competitors to NVIDIA higher, seeing some of those neo-cloud companies higher as well. So when NVIDIA moves, a lot of other companies move too.
Yeah, really everything moves. I mean, even QQQ was up almost 1% after hours. The weight of the stock is just so significant.
Well, sticking with technology, Palo Alto Networks, PANW in the after hours, that's the ticker.
Yeah, so we're seeing this one not have such a good reaction. Shares are down about 3%. It looks like earnings overall beat expectations, but it seems like what investors are probably reacting to here is the company is saying that it would buy Chronosphere. This is the next generation observability platform for $3.35 billion. So this is supposed to boost
Jibu, are you there, Jibu?
security offerings. So it's pretty typical to see stocks fall after they announce acquisitions. So I think that's what's happening right now with Palo Alto.
Yeah, exactly, right. The acquirer you tend to see under some pressure, as you mentioned, PANW, Palo Alto Networks, down in the aftermarket. Let's go to some stocks that you had your eye on during the regular session, and that includes Block.
Yeah, so XYZ we're watching today. It popped after the company said that it expects profit growth to accelerate over the next 3 years. So it had an analyst day today. This was actually the top performing stock on the S&P 500. Basically for 2026, it's forecasting 17% profit growth year over year. And it just marks an acceleration for this kind of growth, profit growth. So
don't say that 5 times fast.
I know it's a really difficult one to get out.
I'm not going to say it once.
I know, exactly. And you got to mention Alphabet. This was certainly
Go back, and you see the comment that Piggy made.
And I believe this was
His last name is Piggy.
Yeah, so Googl.
It's been a long day. It's a long day. You're in good company. We feel you.
So
quickly.
Yeah, it's up 3%. This is yet another record high close. So this stock has just really been on a tear, and a lot of things have been going well for Google lately. So it seems like the most recent is because of its Gemini.
Delete all his comments. Delete all those Piggy comments.
As always, Carmen Reineke, Bloomberg News Equities Reporter. Check out Stock Movers, 5-minute episodes, big winners, big losers. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere.
You right click on it and you hit delete. Select delete. Not ban, but delete.
Earnings and fourth quarter sales projections beat analyst estimates. The company's CEO, Jensen Huang, says big demand cloud GPUs are sold out.
You see how you jump back to number one? You went from number 2 back to number 1. Do you see what he did? What he did is he booted you off the number 1 comment.
Balance of Power, live from Washington, D.C.
Yeah, that's not supposed to happen. That's not supposed to happen because you did a majority of the comments, so you were always supposed to stay at number 1. You weren't supposed to get into.
Wall Street gets a sense of where the billions of dollars being spent on AI are going. NVIDIA stock now jumping 5% after the bell. In today's report,
You weren't supposed to get booted back down to number 2.
we're going to dedicate a full hour of Balance of Power tonight.
So anytime you see that happening, that's a
Jensen Huang later on tonight.
that's a loser troll. That's a loser troll. Loser troll pushing you out of the number 1 spot and taking it over. So that's an automatic sign of a loser troll.
San Francisco bureau is going to be talking with Jensen Huang a short time from now. Ed, it's great to have you. What does this tell us about fears of a slowdown?
Yeah, I mean, the instant reaction is that there isn't a slowdown, that the demand is intact, and NVIDIA used language like sold out. and demand being off the charts for Blackwell, their latest generation GPU. So the number is $65 billion plus or minus 2% for the fiscal fourth quarter, which is pretty significantly above consensus, though I note there were some very bullish names on the street that thought NVIDIA might surprise us and turn around and say they had $75 billion, something like that. But it is in keeping with some of the data points that you and I have discussed on balance of power over the last few weeks. You remember when I was in DC, Jensen Huang had told us that over 6 quarters...
How do you like my baby Sharky? My purple Sharky?
Importantly, excluding China, which was well above what the street had modeled for. So on the face of it, that's the data, though there are some
Purple baby Sharky.
and his colleagues to answer.
And you mentioned decoding this report. One of the things that was not mentioned in here was China. What do you make of that being excluded, and what do you hope to hear from him when you speak with him in just a few minutes?
Very interesting. Not only was it excluded from the press release...
You like his pink fins? His pink fins and his pink tail.
Back in August, when they gave us the outlook for the fiscal third quarter they just reported, NVIDIA was very careful to explain that it didn't assume any H20 sales to China. H20 was the deprecated chip specifically designed for China. We don't know what's going on now because it's simply not mentioned at all, other than the CFO saying that H20 sales were insignificant in the quarter. So that's the big question they're likely to face. Can NVIDIA or can NVIDIA not sell chips to China of some kind? What is it that they've agreed with the president of the United States? And it's also important to say, as you know very well, Laura, what does China have to say about all of this? Because to Jensen Huang and NVIDIA's mind, while it's...
Thank you. We've got the right man with us tonight, Bloomberg's Ed Ludlow. Combing through the results, and we'll be on the call when it begins. We'll check back with Ed a little bit later on as the conference call gets underway now. And make sure to catch Ed's interview, as we mentioned, with NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. The only place you'll see and hear it tonight starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Bloomberg TV and radio. For more on how the markets are moving, specifically NVIDIA shares, we turn to Power Moves with Bloomberg's Romaine Bostic, who joins us live now from World Headquarters in New York. Investors like what they see, Romaine.
Yeah, Joe, and as NVIDIA goes, so goes the market as well. You see the shares in the after-hours trade up about 8% as that conference call gets underway. The CFO now talking about what she calls an outstanding quarter and reiterates a $500 billion revenue promise in the future, something that Ed was alluding to. Past comments by Jensen Huang. And you take a look at the broader market, the triple Qs, the main ETF that tracks the NASDAQ, the SPY, the main ETF that tracks the S&P 500, all higher here in the after-hours session. And that is significant because we had a big sell-off heading into this earnings report because there was a lot of concern about whether the AI boom had really become a bubble and whether the air was finally being let out of it. But quite frankly, at least based on what we saw on paper, that does not seem to be the case. Look at some of the other chip makers out there. Your Intels, your Broadcoms, your Qualcomms, your AMDs, all getting a modest bid here in the after-hours trade. TSM, ASML as well, also getting bid up. But you're also seeing a lot of these hyperscaler companies. That includes the big names like your Microsoft, your Amazons, your Alphabets, but also these neo clouds like a CoreWeave moving higher by 5, 6, 7%. Iron up about 9, 10% here in the after-hours trade, Joe. And I bring that all up because this is a much broader ecosystem. NVIDIA is the granddaddy. It is the biggest weighting out there. But so much of this financial markets right now, Joe, as you know, and for that matter, so much of the economy, and to a certain extent, so much of what's going on in Washington revolves around NVIDIA and just keeping this AI machine going. And at least based on what we learned today, it is still
It's going for now, but once investors really get to digest this data, they hear from Jensen Huang and move forward. Or tomorrow, we're going to be back where we were earlier today with a lot of fears that an AI bubble is just out there beyond the corner.
You know, it's hard to say. It's a great question because it gets to this idea of what exactly are you trying to value into these stocks. It's really easy to do that with NVIDIA. You basically just look at the backlog of chips, the orders that they have. You can put a price tag on that and extrapolate into the future what this company would make. It's a lot harder to do that for some of the other companies, as you know, and that's where I think a lot of the trepidation is. It's also that idea of companies that have been spending, basically the companies that are their money to NVIDIA, giving their money to the hyperscalers, giving their money to the companies that are building out these data centers, and people want to know, where is the return on that? Is there a productivity boost coming from that? Is there an actual investment return? And for those companies, at least, there's a
look at the baby shark. Look at the baby shark.
Going forward.
Look at the
All right, Romain, thank you so much. Bostic with us on NVIDIA earnings. Back at the White House now, President Trump is calling on Congress to pass federal standards to govern oversight of AI. In a post on his social media platform yesterday, the president said, quote, investment in AI is helping to make the U.S. economy the hottest in the world. But overregulation by the states threatening to undermine this growth engine, unquote. The push from the president, just one component of his AI agenda.
So I did this. Did I show you this?
Technology, and when we consider the
Did I show you this picture last night? I colored the picture last night.
Previously served as senior policy advisor for artificial intelligence and emerging technology at the White House. He was the
I colored this picture last night. Do you see it?
action plan released earlier this year. Dean, we talked a lot about it when it came out, and I want to welcome you to Balance of Power. It's great to have you with us here.
Thanks so much for having me.
When you wrote the action plan, were you factoring in this level of growth that Jensen Wong is talking about tonight?
Well, I should say many people across the administration worked on the action plan, and I had the honor of playing a role in it. But yeah, I mean, truthfully, the action plan talks about an industrial revolution, an information revolution, and a renaissance all happening at the same time. And I think that's consistent with the level of growth that we saw today in the NVIDIA earnings.
How did you think about an AI?
Yeah, I did this one last night.
Growth that we've seen, all of these companies investing in each other, and a lot of risk potentially. If one or more of these companies isn't able to live up to its promises.
Yeah, well, I think to some extent you want capitalism to produce a bubble, right? You should want there to be some degree of overinvestment. Every industrial revolution in American history has been coupled with bubbles, railroads, electricity. These things are good. These things are healthy. I think the question is, how long do we have to run? And I think the answer is quite a while. And also, what is the nature of that bubble? I don't think the nature of that bubble is in AI itself. I think it has much more to do with, are there some startups that have frothy valuations? Sure. But I think fundamentally this is a technology with a lot of room to run.
Well, it's a very delicate balance when we have a conversation about regulations, and few people know more about this.
Oh, yeah.
The danger of over-regulating and losing the AI race is a real one, whether that's at the federal level or confusion with states who might draw up their own regulations. But under-regulating is a very scary idea for a lot of people as well when you consider the prospect of losing jobs, our own ability to think about things the way we currently do. You've obviously charted out a path here, but I wonder to what extent it evolves with the technology.
I think it's got to, and I think that the action plan is intended to give lots of optionality, flexibility. I think one of the problems with regulation, in fact, is that it tends to be associated with stasis.
Yeah.
It tends to lock things into place. And I think that what we need right now more than any other time is actually flexibility and adaptability.
So one of the things that Joe was mentioning there is this sort of inherent tension between sort of people really liking AI technologies, but not necessarily liking some of the consequences, whether that be fewer entry-level jobs or data centers in their backyard. How, from a regulatory perspective, do you think about getting on both sides of that issue to advance the technology, but also address some of these very real concerns people have?
Yeah, I think you don't want to create a lot of red tape, but I think there are legitimate concerns you need to address. Something like data center zoning, I see that as being fundamentally a state and local issue. We should let data center operators work. There's a federal role to be played for sure, but we should let data center operators work with communities as we've seen them do, and I think that'll continue to happen. When it comes to jobs, I think we don't know the size of the problem that we have. Every industrial revolution, every general purpose technology is associated with some degree of automation. Some jobs go away, some jobs get created. But the labor market, like everything else in our society, is an adaptive system. Humans are full of needs, and we're more ingenious than we think.
Is there nothing that the federal government can do when it comes to your point, permitting, red tape, NIMBYism, access to energy? There are a lot of headwinds here for companies that are over-investing. They announce a big deal. It's going to be $500 billion in this much compute, but you need workers on the ground. You need water to cool. You need neighbors who allow you in. That's all up to the states.
I think there's a federal role to be played, particularly on electricity.
Okay.
There's permitting. There's transmission. There are things that, especially interconnection to the grid, these are things that can end up holding data centers back for years and other projects too. It's not just data centers, right? So we need to speed up interconnections. And in fact, the Trump administration has taken action in recent weeks with the Department of Energy to sort of speed some of that up. So I think there is a role to be played, But this is an area where responsibility is shared between local, state, and federal.
I should mention that NVIDIA shares are on a tear here. Laura, we're up over 6%, $12 now, approaching, well, it's above $198. Remembering that the all-time high, not too far from here, on the 19th of November at $198. See if maybe we get above 200 here by the time Jensen Huang is done talking. It brings about the idea of financing, of course, and the many promises that we've heard from the likes of OpenAI and concerns about, you hear them, circular investing. That's beyond the bubble. The idea that there's some sort of shell game here and a hiding of depreciation. What do you answer these critics who do you agree with them?
I think it depends on the specifics, right? In general, one of the things that I think makes America, makes me bullish on America for AI is that we're quite good at financial engineering. It's one of our, civilizational bread and butter. And so I'm optimistic that most of that will play out just fine. But look, are there dangerous deals that get made? For sure. Again, it's a bubble. Like, you should expect that to be the case. It's just, again, how much damage does it do when it pops? Is it how long does it take, et cetera, et cetera? I think we have many years to run.
Yeah.
What is realistic to expect from Washington when it comes to regulation? Congress has been very, very bad about regulating tech, and the technologies just move so much more quickly than the Senate and the House can. Will we have to rely on just the administration, just the White House to regulate?
I hope not. That's something that we'll see, I think, in the coming weeks, in fact. So the president, as Joe mentioned, the president tweeted last night about the concept of federal preemption of state AI regulations, and we will see what happens. Congress is working its way through that. There's a lot of deal making going on right now. We don't know what's going to be in that proposal, but the idea of avoiding a state patchwork, or even worse, I think, or just as bad, avoiding an outcome where California and New York regulate AI for the entire country, I think is essential for Congress to get right. And so we'll see.
Steve Ball, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for American Innovation. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
We'll come back to the big story around NVIDIA and AI in just a moment. But first, to another headline playing out today: developments in the war in Ukraine. After Reuters reported the U.S. has signaled to Ukrainian President Zelensky he must accept a U.S.-drafted peace framework, which includes a reduction in troops and giving up territory to Russia. That plan reportedly drafted in secret between a high-ranking Trump administration official and Russia, according to Axios. Those reports coming as a series of Russian missiles hit western Ukraine, killing dozens, while Zelensky met with Turkish President Erdogan, who pushed for a renewed Russia-Ukraine talks. For more, let's go to Bloomberg's Kate Sullivan at the White House. Kate, this has been a really, a surprising development, a deal that seems to have come out of nowhere. It appears to include a lot of Russia's wish list, but not so much what the Ukraine was looking for. How is this plan going over at the White House and with Ukrainian officials?
So we're really seeing a renewed push here by the Trump administration to try to get some momentum going again, to try to end the war in Ukraine. But we actually have a couple of big things happening here at the same time. So one is that a delegation of top U.S. military officials have actually arrived in Ukraine for talks. That delegation is being led by the Secretary of the Army. And just the fact that we have top U.S. military officials on the ground in Ukraine definitely signals that the Trump administration is perhaps looking to collaborate with Ukraine when it comes to ways that they can collaborate on the battlefield and trying to ramp up pressure on Russia. And the second big thing that's happening here is what you already mentioned. So Axios is reporting that there is this 28-point peace plan that has been drafted by U.S. and Russian officials. Importantly, Ukrainian officials have not had input here, and European officials haven't either. And so I think we're still, it's unclear how this plan is going to address some of the key sticking points that have been sticking points for a long time, particularly when it comes to territorial concessions, territorial control in eastern Ukraine. But we are all eagerly awaiting to hear more from the White House.
And Kate, keep us posted. Bloomberg's Kate Sullivan reporting live from the White House North Lawn this evening. We thank you, as always. Straight ahead, much more on our special live coverage of tonight's NVIDIA earnings and all the movement that comes with it. We're going to go live to Capitol Hill, speak with the chair of the House Budget Committee, Republican Congressman Joni Arrington of Texas. Be with us about what's next for lawmakers as the AI boom kicks into gear in states across the country, including his, of course. Later, we'll peel back the curtain
on the Trump administration's AI agenda. What it means for the U.S.-China relationship. We sit down with Dan Newberger, former Deputy National Security Advisor for Cyber and Emerging Tech. That's all ahead on Balance of Power on Bloomberg TV and radio.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is the Bloomberg Business Flash.
It's 5:16 on Wall Street. We do check markets all day long. Here at Bloomberg, we've got NVIDIA shares climbing after hours, now up by roughly 5%. NVIDIA did give a strong revenue forecast for the current period, helping counter concern that an explosion in AI spending is heading for a crash after hours. We got the Qs up by just about 1.5%. President Trump is again weighing in on the Federal Reserve with renewed criticism of Chair Jay Powell.
I love the Fed job. To me, it's the easiest job in the world. You play golf for 28, 29 days, then you go and make a little speech, tell everybody, in the case of the current guy, the wrong information because he has no clue.
President Trump made the comment today at a U.S.-Saudi investment forum. Palo Alto Networks announcing after the bell that it is acquiring Chronosphere for $3.35 billion to boost its AI-enabled cybersecurity offerings. Stocks higher. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ all advanced today. Indeed, shares of the world's largest tech companies climbing after hours on speculation that NVIDIA's solid earnings will help reignite the AI-driven rally. Today, we saw the S&P 500 index climb 24 points. That was a gain of just about 0.4%. The Dow up 47, up 0.1%. NASDAQ up today by 0.6%. Our Max 7 index ahead of NVIDIA's earnings up by 0.8%. For on-demand news, 24 hours a day, subscribe to Bloomberg News Now, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Jensen, I don't think you can open up a big plant with your friend from Taiwan where we're going to have 40 or 50% of the computer chip business at a very... I don't think you can do that with people that don't even know what a chip looks like. Do you agree with that? This is something they've never done. And we're not going to be successful if we don't allow people that invest billions of dollars in plants and equipment to bring a lot of their people from their country to get that plant open, operating, and working. I'm sorry.
It's Balance of Power on Bloomberg TV and radio alongside Laura Davis, and I'm Joe Matthew. Thanks for joining us. That, of course, President Trump. He was speaking earlier today at the U.S.-Saudi Investment Forum at the Kennedy Center, commenting on the need to build AI data centers here across the country. America does, in fact, have the most data centers worldwide, with more than 4,100 active data centers nationwide, the largest of which is in Texas, of course, with OpenAI's sprawling Stargate compound working overtime here. And joining us now live from Capitol Hill is Republican Congressman Jody Arrington of Texas, who's, of course, chair of the House Budget Committee, as well a member of the House Ways and Means Committee, and happens to have Stargate in his backyard, in his own district. Mr. Chairman, welcome back to Bloomberg TV and radio. It's great to have you. We've been having a conversation not only about NVIDIA results, but regulations, or if you ask, some lack thereof, surrounding the development of artificial intelligence.
You hear that, Jibu? They're arguing with the president over opening up AI and more computer server labs throughout America.
This is a race with China, and I think it's going to involve not only the United States, but our allies. But who would have thought, by the way, that the food, fuel, and fiber capital of the world, which is West Texas, a beautiful big swath of rural America, would also be the backbone for AI. And
yeah, Trump is doing the right thing. He's trying to get more people to come into America, invest money into AI, because he wants AI, artificial intelligence, to take over.
And so it's going to be America leading with the support and partnership of our allies. I think that's a good strategy.
Congressman, you had a meeting earlier today with Scott Bessent when he was up on the Hill, and you told him that you didn't think that this idea of a $2,000 rebate check was such a good idea that should instead go down to paying down the deficit. What did you hear from the Treasury Secretary, and where do you think the administration is going when it comes to both bigger picture fiscal issues for the issue of affordability for households?
Well, I guess, first of all, I think the best way to put more money in people's pockets is to have better opportunities and bigger paychecks. That's what happened in the first Trump administration because of the deregulation and also because of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that was made permanent effectively in the big, beautiful bill. So what we saw from that was income and wages go up about $5,000 to $6,000 on average for median household incomes. So that's the better way. All boats rise on the tide of prosperity. We have the lowest poverty rates in recorded history. We have the lowest unemployment rates. So a strong economy, good fundamentals, and a belief in pro-growth policies, I think, is the answer. And then what I said to him was, look, if we're going to give a dividend check back to the people, let's give it to our children and grandchildren, because the debt at $38 trillion, totally unsustainable, is a deferred tax on them. So if you want to bring the cost of capital down, you want to bring interest rates down, and you want to do good for our children and grandchildren who are going to inherit the whirlwind of this massive and unsustainable debt, let's start paying down the debt. And by the way, he reminded me the deficit to GDP has gone down just this past year, this fiscal year, for the first time in a decade if you control for COVID. I think we're going in the right direction, but that was my position on how we put more money in people's pockets.
You mentioned jobs, Mr. Chairman. I wonder if you have concerns about the very technology that we're discussing.
Trump wants to send a $2,000 check to low income and middle income people. Low and middle income people.
Without entry-level jobs at some point to help start a lot of careers. Is that something Washington should be helping to guide?
I think there will be some retooling and retraining of the workforce.
$2,000. Only taxpayers will get this money. He's not going to send it to rich people, and he's not going to send it to people that don't contribute tax money into the system.
You know exactly what their need is, but there's no doubt there'll be some disruption, there'll be adjustments. But listen, to not engage in the AI race, to not have that application for more effective, efficient, every sector.
If you get those $2,000, I want you to save it. Save those $2,000, yo. Don't spend it on bullshit.
We just have to do it right and responsibly and understand there will be some things to manage, like what you mentioned about the workforce.
Congressman, in the last 30 seconds that we have you, do you see a role for an AI bill to move through Congress, in the next coming months?
Well, I heard some of the discussion before joining you. I think there's a real delicate balance. One of the reasons boom in data centers are happening in West Texas is because of low cost of energy, but also just a good business-friendly environment. We have low regulation, so lots of certainty and predictability. That is the environment for investment.
You pay taxes to the American government, right? You pay taxes to the American government?
Overdo it, all right? But we also don't want this patchwork of 50 states with a layer of federal regulations, so we've got to be smart, put some general safeguards in place, and do not crush the innovation that has put us in a position to gain tremendously, economically and beyond.
We've still got a lot to figure out, Congressman, so let's keep talking. Republican Congressman Jody Herrings of Texas. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Coming up, we're going to look at how the market is moving in after-hours trading following that NVIDIA earnings report. We're up about $10 or 5% right now after the close, and much more ahead here on Balance of Power, only on Bloomberg.
Market. headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is the Bloomberg Business Flash.
It's March 26 on Wall Street. The new check markets all day long here at Bloomberg. We'll have more on video coming up in just a moment. But after our shares spiking 5%, it gave a strong revenue forecast for the current period, helping counter concerns that an explosion in AI spending is heading for a crash. Many Fed officials said it will likely be appropriate to keep rates steady for the remainder of 2025. This according to minutes of the Federal Open Market Committee's October 28th, 29th meeting. Andrew Sliman is head of Applied Equity Advisors at Morgan Stanley. He was interviewed ahead of the release of the Fed minutes, and earlier today on Bloomberg Open Interest, he talked about the outlook for the Federal Reserve.
I think if the Fed were actually to go slowly, I think one of the reasons why you've the deflation and some of this bubble come down to some of these very speculative stocks is the chance the Fed may not cut in December. I'm not a Fed expert, but I would argue that's good. That keeps it, keeps the, kind of speculation down.
Andrew Sliman of Morgan Stanley. S&P today up 24 up 0.4%. The Dow up 0.1%. NASDAQ up 0.5%. Our coverage of NVIDIA continues right now on Balance of Power.
Now, your 3-day weather forecast on Bloomberg 1130.
Partly to mostly cloudy through our evening and overnight hours tonight. Lows are 30 to 35 in the suburbs and 35 to 40 around the city. Clouds with a mix of some sunshine for Thursday. Highs are 45 to 50. Will be cloudy Thursday night, low 40s. Another cloudy day in store to end the work week on Friday, not as chilly with our highs 55 to 60. I'm Anna Sheehy with your 3-day forecast on Bloomberg 1130.
Now, Anshin Accountants and Advisors presents the Tax Minute with Joseph Malloy, tax partner in Anshin's Construction Group.
The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, also known as the OBBBA, will have a significant impact on tax planning strategies. The bill restores and makes permanent 100% bonus depreciation for all eligible purchases made after January 19, 2025. This tax incentive will influence investments in additional machinery and equipment upgrades, providing an immediate tax deduction and helping contractors increase cash flow. At Anshin, a partner-owned firm since 1923, we strategically guide construction companies through the new tax law to help them develop the right strategy and enhance profitability. If you're a construction executive or owner looking to maximize tax savings, let Anshin deliver value where others can.
For more tax tips from Anshin, visit Anshin.com. That's ANCHIN.com. Anshin Accountants and Advisors, helping you recalculate what's possible.
Markets never sleep, and neither does Interactive Brokers. React immediately to market-moving news and trade over 10,000 U.S. stocks and ETFs, U.S. equity index options, U.S. Treasuries, global corporate bonds, European government bonds, and U.K. gilts when it's convenient for you. Capture more market opportunities when market-moving news happens. Open an account with Interactive Brokers at ibkr.com/around-the-clock.
It's Balance of Power on Bloomberg TV and radio alongside Laura Davis, and I'm Joe Matthew. Thanks for spending part of the after-hours session with us. After NVIDIA reported earnings just over an hour ago, the stock now rising about 5% in after-hours trading, and it's impacting the whole neighborhood as we keep an eye on
after-hours trading. After hours. After hours is the name of my show.
4% all time is up about 1.5% as we make our way through now the earnings call, and that is Jensen Huang, who's just getting on that call now. And I want to note that we'll have a live and exclusive interview with Jensen Huang, the head of NVIDIA, coming up at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the only conversation you're going to hear with Jensen Huang outside of the conference call, and our own Ed Ludlow will have that for us a bit later on. In Washington today, the president took the stage at the U.S. Investment Forum and spoke about investments in the country just a day after his administration said it planned to greenlight the first sales of advanced AI chips to Saudi Arabia.
My hand is tired.
President underlining his pitch to
and you know what that means. Once my hand gets tired, that means it's
My message to all of the leaders and investors with us today, and they are the best in the world, is very simple. Under the Trump administration,
that means coloring is postponed.
And America is actually stronger than it's ever been before.
Joining us now with insight into these potential chip sales, we turn to Bloomberg's Mike Shepard, who joins us live from our Washington bureau. We couldn't have an NVIDIA earnings night without Shep. Think of how many times we have talked about export controls, national security. With deals like these in mind, it doesn't seem to be holding back this administration.
No, it isn't. They are looking for ways to export what they call the American technology stack abroad, especially to deep-pocketed allies like the Gulf nations of Saudi Arabia and the UAE. During the president's visit to the region in May, we saw him talk about this and kick off a number of these arrangements with some of the emerging AI ventures that are coming from the kingdom and then from the emirate itself. And those refer to Humane, as we were just discussing now, but also G42, which is the counterpart in the United Arab Emirates. Each of them offers these two oil-rich nations a path to diversifying their economy, and it's critical for them. But it's also critical for the U.S. to find buyers of this technology, which can be pricey, but it's also a way of establishing an American foothold for American technology in the administration's view in a region that has also been subject to competition from China, which has its own AI challengers, including Huawei Technologies, and they are making their own AI chips, and it's something that Jensen Huang has repeatedly warned that the U.S. needs to be out front, it needs to be selling in other markets, and he's even made the case for relaxing some export controls, even when it comes to the Chinese market too, Joe. So this is something we'll have to continue to watch. The one thing that does hold up all those visions, though, is just when the paperwork, those export licenses, are actually going to drop. And we've gotten news that Humane is on course to receive those approvals and be able to start selling those, buying those chips from NVIDIA and other AI chip makers here in the U.S.
Mike, with numbers like we just saw NVIDIA put on the board here, do they need access to that Chinese market for those very advanced chips, or are they able to sell other places and still be able to continue to grow at the rate that Jensen Huang wants?
Well, the demand that they are envisioning really doesn't include China. They have not included China in their forecasts, and yet Jensen Huang does see China as critical to his company's future and growth, and to the American edge in technology, especially artificial intelligence. And the reason is this, and this is one that some of the president's advisors actually embrace. To compete with China, you have to compete in China. At least that is how Jensen Huang sees it. He would favor selling China a deprecated or less advanced version of his market-leading Blackwell chip. But for now, the U.S. approvals for that are really off the table. It was something that was briefly discussed before the president's meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, but it never really got off the ground. And there is a lot of skepticism here in Washington, especially among the China hawks we hear from so often, about the wisdom of doing exactly that.
Bloomberg's Michael Shepard, we thank you, Mike, as ever. As we keep an eye on NVIDIA, shares rising after hours. The Wall Street Journal reporting the United States has approved a deal to sell AI chips to the Middle East. Joining us now for more on the impact on the U.S.-China relationship is Ann Neuberger, paying lecturer at Stanford University, former Deputy National Security Advisor for Cyber and Emerging Technology in the Biden administration. And it's great to have you back, and we welcome you. I don't want to turn you into a stock analyst tonight. We're more curious about the backdrop for this entire conversation, specifically when it comes to national security risks, export controls, and the deliberations that go behind transferring this type of sensitive technology. Are we creeping up on a line that begins to compromise security?
It's a great question, Joe, and it's a central question in the overall strategic goals of this particular agreement. And we should know that the AI agreement is in the context of other agreements signed.
Yeah, I had to delete your last comment because you said a naughty word. You said a naughty word, so I had to delete that comment.
Is it more important for the strategic rivalry with China for the world to run on the U.S. technology stack, to be in alignment with U.S. AI standards, or are the technologies so sensitive that advanced U.S. chip technology, which could potentially leak to strategic rivals, notably China, isn't worth the risk? And that's at the core of the debate. I think what we've seen is the Trump administration say, weighing in to say, we're making a strategic bet. Getting Saudi Arabia and the Saudi ecosystem to run on U.S. AI standards with the safeguards that are built into this agreement, notably two particular safeguards, will achieve our core goals of advancing U.S. technology while managing the risks.
And as you mentioned, there are a whole bunch of deals that were unveiled over the past couple of days here. AI and chips really at the center of that, but also energy defense. When you take all of these deals in total, who came out ahead, the U.S. or Saudi Arabia?
Great question. So first, let's talk about what each of them got at, right? The Saudis got real advancements on the military side with the sale of F-35s. Until now, heretofore, only sold in the region to Israel, which has really built advancements on the American F-35s as part of a strategic partnership between the U.S. and Israel. When we talk about cooperation and adherence with non-proliferation standards, and most importantly, when we talk about critical minerals, the Saudis' investment in a regional hub, right? So from the Saudis' perspective, it's advancements in really cutting-edge U.S. technologies. From the American perspective, as we talked about a moment ago, it's building the Saudi ecosystem on U.S. AI standards and critical minerals. Saudis help in actually refining and processing critical minerals that underpin defense, that underpin AI, that underpin manufacturing. Today, some statistics that show us the criticality of that, 90% of critical mineral key elements are refined and processed in China. 99% of heavy.
In 10 minutes, I'm going to go and eat my chicken.
Really significant in terms of having Saudi Arabia as a strategic partner, becoming a regional hub to do the refinement and processing, which is really where the strategic.
And then later on tonight, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get some more chicken with yellow rice, lettuce, tomatoes, onions, barbecue sauce. All of that.
Some of the transfers of very strategic technologies on the military side, on the civil nuclear side, and on the advanced chip side.
Barbecue chicken, it's called.
I wonder,
it's grilled on fire.
The fact that China helped to build out the internet infrastructure in Saudi Arabia, and when you add Blackwell chips or advanced AI chips to that ecosystem, there are great concerns about this ending up in the wrong hands. Do you share those worries?
Exactly. I do. I share those concerns. These are advanced technologies. We certainly don't want a strategic rival like China getting access to it. You know, with that said, there are very strong technical controls, network controls, physical safeguards like access to data centers, as well as the broader strategic interest, right? You know, these licenses are not one-time licenses, they're licenses over a period of time. And Saudi Arabia knows that the U.S. will be monitoring for any leakage to China and can turn off the licenses. So this is also a strategic bet on the side to say if they want continued access to this advanced technology, they need to be doing their best to safeguard. Now, to your point, China has one of the most advanced, well-resourced, sophisticated cyber hacking programs in the world. Most recently, the Saudi Navy did joint engagement with the Chinese Navy. So we are, you know, the Chinese will likely do their best to get to these technologies, and that's where the strategic partnership is important. I will note a quick point, which is, you know, there have been, over the years, Saudi Aramco was one of the early purchases of U.S. advanced computing. We're talking about in the 60s and 70s, so there is a history of control of strategic technologies between Saudi Arabia and the United States.
We saw a really strengthening of ties between Saudi Arabia and the U.S. this week, both on the business side, but also very much between this warm relationship we saw on display between MBS and Trump. Do you envision that this relationship plays out past the Trump years, or is this really just contained to the next 3 years or so?
It's a great question, Laura. Saudi Arabia has been a key ally, like Israel, in the Middle East for the United States. There have been tensions in the relationship, clearly, for various factors over time. And this is a U.S. investment by sharing such strategic technology. This is a Saudi investment by committing to spending $1 trillion in the United States that's making a strategic bet for the long term. Now, clearly, there will continue to be tensions that pull at that relationship, but this has been a long-term strategic partnership for the United States. And by laying down these investments on both sides with the controls, notably in the context of the strategic U.S. rivalry with China, it's a bet for the long-term future, too.
And thank you so much, Ann Neuberger, Payne Distinguished Lecturer at Stanford University. We really appreciate
the conversation here as we watch shares of NVIDIA climb in after-hours trading, now up a little more, almost 4% at this point, a little more than $7.
Damn, China wants those chips. China wants those faster core CPU chips, and China wants those faster NVIDIA graphics chips.
Are all in on this. And Laura, it's impacting shares of all the companies in the neighborhood as we watch AMD, Intel, Qualcomm, and others. We're hearing some interesting headlines from the conference call now that Jensen Huang is talking, presumably.
Can you hear my news radio?
Incredible that he's doing this here from the nation's capital. Laura, he says NVIDIA is mapping out the three main reasons here, the purpose of this call, as to why things will keep going when we hear so much talk about overspending or maybe a popping of the bubble. AI is changing its work by making them more efficient, he says. Generative AI creating new workloads, and AI is coming to the physical world. When you consider these big thoughts and you look at the reaction on Wall Street, it reminds you of how much money is involved here.
And he doesn't use some really interesting language here when he's talking around this bubble idea. He said it's not a bubble, but he said NVIDIA had achieved a tipping point, which that sounds a lot like a bubble to me. They're kind of acknowledging that there's sort of this explosive growth that they're clearly a little bit worried about containing. Obviously they hit numbers after analysts were expecting that they might, kind of implode, but come 4 o'clock this afternoon, it was all green up on the board.
Well, that's for sure, and it's hanging in there at this point. As we mentioned, shares of NVIDIA in after hours now up 4%, $7 were just shy.
There he goes again, saying after hours, after hours, after hours. It's the name of my show, After Hours.
This is New York's only 24-hour source for world markets and breaking business. Bloomberg 1130. Coming up, the latest market-moving headlines from Bloomberg. First, an update from our partners at CBS News.
Look at my pretty socks.
Former FBI Director James Comey appears to be on shaky ground after prosecutors admitted today the grand jury wasn't presented with a copy of the final indictment. Legal analyst Lori Levinson.
This is probably more than the question is rather cold, too.
The bill to release the Epstein files is on its way to the president's desk. Nicole Killian reports some of the abuse survivors could be present.
Talking to some survivors who are on Capitol Hill for the vote, they told me that they would be open to possibly meeting with the president.
You show my pretty socks?
Sales of its chipsets powering AI surged beyond what stock market analysts had expected.
NVIDIA is helping assuage market worries over an AI bubble.
Business reporter Jason Brooks, there have been worries lately about the frenzied spending on AI technology. Stock futures are higher. CBS News Brief, I'm Cammie McCormick.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is the Bloomberg Business Flash.
It's 5:50. 5:44 on Wall Street. We do check markets all day long here at Bloomberg. Certainly NVIDIA, the big story after hours, not just because of the report, because of implications for markets. NVIDIA's outlook signals that demand does remain strong for its AI accelerators, despite growing fears that the spending on such equipment is not sustainable. As for what it means for the broader equity market, Sylvia Jablonski is the CEO of Defiance ETFs. She was interviewed on Bloomberg The Close.
I think the earnings outlook is great, right? Because the downside investors have had, which I think has led to the pullbacks, is AI, tangible? Is it worth what companies are paying for it? Is it worth the CapEx? Is it worth the valuations? And here's, Jensen Huang and NVIDIA delivering this great earnings results, a great outlook for Q4. The demand is still there. Compute is still there. The AI trade is very much on.
And coming up 6:30 p.m. Wall Street time, we will be sitting down with NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang right here on Bloomberg. And of course, stay tuned to Bloomberg throughout the evening for more updates on reaction to NVIDIA's earnings report. Green on the screen heading into the close today. Choppy session, but nonetheless, an advance for the U.S. equity market, halting a string of declines. S&P up 24, back at 6642, up 0.4%. The Dow up 0.1%. NASDAQ today up by 0.6%. I'm Charlie Pellet. Balance of Power continues now, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Where are you, Jensen? Stand up. You have done such a good job. And you had a good 2 days, I understand, right? A good 2 days. How's Blackwell doing, okay? Any recent competitors? Anybody gonna blow Blackwell away in the next week? They say 10 years, I don't know, maybe 2 years, 3 years. But you will not be stopping there. You'll be going further fast, right? An amazing job you've done.
Balance of Power on Bloomberg TV and radio. I'm Joe Matthew alongside Laura Davison in Washington. Then, of course, President Trump speaking earlier today at the U.S.-Saudi Investment Forum here in Washington, praising NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang ahead of today's earnings report, which is now out, a beat and raised, stocks higher. Huang reassuring investors on the future of AI when speaking on the company's conference call after NVIDIA beat estimates. Listen.
There's been a lot of talk about an AI bubble. From our vantage point, we see something very different. AI is also reached a tipping point and is transforming existing applications while enabling entirely new ones. For existing applications, generative AI is replacing classical machine learning.
Now, less than an hour from now, you're going to hear from Jensen Huang right here exclusively on Bloomberg TV and radio when he talks with Ed Ludlow, the host of Bloomberg Tech, who is back with us right now live from San Francisco. He's got one ear on the call and I guess one ear on Balance of Power. I don't know how you do this, Ed, but what are we learning here that's new?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, Jensen Huang, the CEO, and Colette Kress, the CFO, are trying to give the picture that the story is intact. You know, demand is still there, insatiable demand. You know,